if you're in a relationship you're comfortable, it's probably not great. Like you want tension, you want some kind of tension or discomfort. Because of that, you're arguing a little bit. You don't argue a lot, but you're arguing a little bit, and in those arguments, that's how we grow.
Eric G. is a personality-based life coach
who has developed
a unique animal-based
personality typing system.
Everyone has a role in society, and that's kind of how I came up with the 4 personality packs names, right? And just like archetypally in medieval villages, you had those people in those roles, and you just thinking about it, what do we need most of? Well, we probably need more, right? Because it takes a lot of people to get the harvest, protect the village, and then maybe the second most we need is because we need a lot of people going out there and like bringing food. Because like I said, you only need one person making the tools, which is what does. They make the technology. You only need one person to tell everyone when it's going to rain and when they should gather the harvest, but you need like probably half the village to bring in the crops. So.
Welcome to It's Your Choice podcast. Today on the show, we have Eric G. Eric, thank you very much for joining us today.
Oh, awesome. I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
So, Eric, you are a personality-based life coach, and so you deal with a lot of different personality types. So, how many personality types are there, and how do you differentiate between them?
So there's 16, and I think anyone who's studied personality types, that's going to be a very familiar number. There are a lot of different personality typing methodologies that use 16 types. So that's why I love the follow-up question, which is, how do I distinguish between those? Because it's quite different than most other typing methodologies. What I first do is distinguish or place people into 4 different personality packs. And I call them packs because my types are based on animals. So it just is really easy to remember and remember your pack. And then you'll remember that within each pack, there are 4 different animal personality types that you will fall into one of those categories. So basically, each pack is separated by what we value. Each one of those has a core primary value. Doesn't mean that you can't value something in another pack. It just means that you're going to prioritize one thing over the other. And then once you find yourself in that pack, then the animal that you are depends on how you go about achieving that value, right? So like if you're a personality pack that values safety and security, we often go about achieving safety and security in different ways, and then that will determine what animal type you are. And of course, 4 packs, 4 animals in each. If my math is correct, 4 times 4 is 16. And yeah, that's how you get 16 personalities.
Excellent. And are there certain personalities that really get along together and others that really clash?
Yeah, like I do think if you belong to the same personality pack, you're probably going to get along with someone who doesn't. Now, there's always the disclaimer that, there's tons of different factors, right? Like, we always find ways to disagree with each other and not like each other, which is not the opposite of what I'm trying to achieve with my book. But like if you're from a pack that values safety and security, and you're going to clash with someone from a pack that values excitement, right? Because sometimes those two things are very different. I always use the example of a roller coaster. People want to go on roller coasters because they think they're going to die, or they think they're getting their body thrown around and makes them feel unsafe. And for those that like excitement, that unsafe feeling is actually really fun and stimulating. But someone who doesn't like that and wants value safety and security would think that's like, why do I want to feel that way? I want to feel like comfortable. You're going to clash philosophically on a lot of different situations.
Right. It's like my brother and I, if we're watching movies, sometimes we have a tough time picking one because I like comedies and I like funny ones, and he likes scary horror movies, and I don't like them at all. I don't like that scared feeling, that whatever. And it's so funny because I know it's a movie. I know it's not true, but it's interesting how the brain can have us perceive or feel like it's true, even though we're not. And then after I'm always like, oh, what's that noise? What's that sound? What? And I'm just like, no, don't like them. Don't watch them.
It's
Not
like
my
my
thing.
sister. My sister loves scary movies too, and I grew up, and she would always call me a wimp because I don't want to watch. It's there's a certain cruelty that I don't particularly identify in scary, but I'm not saying the people who like them are cruel. It's just, my sister will watch and go, look, no, look at this dumb guy. He's doing dumb things, and watch, he's gonna get his head cut off because of that. Oh, this is so funny. And so I'm like, oh, okay, like, to each their own, right? We get excited in different ways, or we enjoy things for different
Right.
reasons.
And our perspective is different. right?
Right,
Like she's
exactly.
thinking it's funny, this person's dumb. She's, we know what's going to happen in most of them of something. It's interesting that way. But, also there is situations where people need different things, right? Like everybody has that need for safety and security, but just how much we need it varies from person to person. How much consistency we need, how much variety we need. So all of those things, and I guess those would play into those personality types to where on the scale of, if we put it on a scale of like 1 to 10, where is that importance of each of those things?
Right. And it's also growth, right? Like what we value is great. And then it also, our personality type indicates where we can grow. Doesn't mean we change. I'm not a big believer that people can change, and people are like, oh, wait, what do you mean everyone can change? I'm like, well, if you've actually changed, it's probably not great for your emotional health. I think we can grow and we grow into better
Mm.
versions of ourselves, or we can grow into worse versions of ourselves. And each personality type dictates like your room for growth. Like if someone who values safety and security, of course, I always say they live in a bubble, which is great because a bubble is safe, but bubbles can sometimes be a bit rigid and they can be a bit small. So their growth pattern is just to like spread that bubble and expand that bubble to where it's like this huge bubble so that everything in their world is really safe, but their world is pretty big. And obviously, different types have different growth arcs. That's just the most common because about half the population fits into that pack, which also
Right.
determines why a lot of our societal values are determined in that way, right? Like, gotta be a good student, follow the rules, get good grades. And if you get good grades, you'll go to a good college afterwards. If you go to a good college afterwards, then you can get a good job. And then once you have that good job, then you get married and have kids and have a family and buy a house and get a dog and buy a car and, all those things. But that's not for everybody.
But it's not for
So,
everybody.
not
Yeah.
for everybody. Yeah.
And I mean, and I believe it used to work very much like that way, and almost kind of on that kind of schedule or timeline, but it just doesn't anymore. I don't feel um there is as much security as there was 40, 50 years ago when our parents were going through all of those stages. I think that the world is quite different now, for pros and cons to it. I mean, just because for me, I've worked for myself and been self-employed and business owner for, oh my gosh, over 25 almost years now. So almost my whole kind of working life, except for in my early teens. And so for me, and I've seen people, they go to work and they get laid off and businesses go out of business. So I've always had that when you go to work and get a job, it's a false sense of security because you never know if you're going to get laid off. And we've seen big companies in years all of a sudden close their doors and things like that, where I think a little bit more of working for myself and being the business owner, to a certain degree, I have more control. And it could be just my own perspective because I mean, I still can't control everything, but if I need to work more or work harder or get more clients, there's things that I can do to hopefully make those things happen. And I just feel like I have more control, whether if I just have my job that I go to and I'm working for someone else, if they don't make the right decisions, I can lose my job because the company can go bankrupt.
Right. And it's could be based on your values too. If you're a different type of personality pack that values like, let's say, self-knowledge, generally that personality pack what caters to them are jobs that kind of fit their mission, right? Whatever their individual mission that they've discovered about themselves. Like this is something that I truly value. And obviously if you join a company, you can join it based on their mission statement, but sometimes, we don't have control over what that company does, and it doesn't feel like it belongs to us. We don't really have a whole lot of stake, and that affects our
Mhm.
motivation as well, right? And some people, I like how you said, like certainty is not like guaranteed. The world is not a safe place, and yet it's a great place, And I think
Right.
depending on our personality, sometimes some personalities deal with that better than others, and then
Mhm.
there are certain other types that have to like learn that part of it. So it's all individual, right? We all grow differently.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, some of my closest friends, we've had conversations where they are great at their jobs, employed, everything, and they've said to me, "Oh, I don't know how you do what you do. How you come up with these ideas and you do this and you do all this stuff. Like, how do you do it?" And I just like, I don't know. It's just I get my personality. It comes to me. I learn. I think of these things, and I say to them, I said, "But how do you go to work and do the same thing every day after like I couldn't do that. Like if I would get so bored and there's just no way that I would do it because I really enjoy that variety, change, the a little bit of that unknown um
Mhm.
kind of situations where I think I have control, but sometimes I don't, but it's that unknown and go with the flow, see what happens and that inconsistency. Pardon the interruption. If you're liking the show so far, please like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. It really means a lot to me. It helps grow the show and the channel and to the show.
Yeah, every day is open to a new discovery, right? And I think
Right.
some personalities don't particularly like that, and some maybe they have to learn to grow into that. Obviously, that idea of like the person who every day is a new discovery also has problems, like
Mhm.
you sound like you sorry if I'm gonna personality type you and put you into one of
Okay.
the personality packs, but you sound like you fit into the shaman. I call them shaman personality pack. And
Okay.
they value say self-knowledge.
Hmm.
So everything they do is geared towards either helping them discover who they are and new parts of themselves, or helping others do it, because that's also something that they really love to do. And I always say shamans never have a midlife crisis because their whole life is a midlife crisis, because their whole life is just like
That's
me.
so good.
Yeah. Yeah. Am I doing the right thing? I don't know. Well, let me try something else. Oh, I don't know. I'm feeling not so good about what I'm doing, but like they always have this, especially early, if adolescence is hard for everybody, adolescence is really, really hard for shamans, right? Because the way that they value things and the way that they want to live their life is often different than what they're being
Mhm.
told by their teachers, sometimes their parents, and just overall societal influences, right? And so they live their whole life feeling that way. But the nice thing is, since they generally have done the work, by the time they're in their, middle age, like their 40s and stuff, they're just like, oh, I'm feeling pretty good. I kind of like know what I want now. I do my thing, and I'm always open to learning new things about myself. Where on the flip side, the gatherer pack, which makes about half the population that values safety and security, they don't often question the things they do because they're everything that they want when they're younger, they are told that's exactly what they want. So everything
Mhm.
lines up, but then they get to be like 40 years old and then they're just like, wait, I am in a job that I hate. I have a family that I like my family, but I also feel a little trapped. I'm in a marriage that
Mhm.
maybe I'm not in the happiest marriage, and yet like, why am I doing this? I guess I'm stuck here because I never really thought about any of these things because I just did them. So,
Right. Because society has the word that I'm trying to delete from my vocabulary is should. You should do
right.
this. You should, and then you should, and then, or we say to ourselves, well, I should be doing this. And at this age, I should have, and I should. Um, and I really don't like that word because it's a comparison and we are all different. Um, but yeah, you described me pretty good there
Oh,
because
great.
it's true. Like even when I was a kid, I felt a little out of place because I was always had this entrepreneurship in me. Like I would, kids made fun of me because I would walk my lawnmower more than my dog, is what they would say. Because I would take my lawnmower and go around the neighborhood and see if anybody wanted their lawns mowed. And I would shovel their walks in the wintertime and always just doing different things. And to me, it just felt so normal to do those things, but no one else did them. And so there was a bit of a disconnect growing up because I wasn't like everybody else, but it still felt so natural to me.
Yeah, like, and the cool thing about that is that's even how you're describing how you were. There's four different animal personalities within the shaman pack, and even how you said like that need for like, we were talking earlier about traveling and moving all over the world and establishing different places, and that idea of like, no, I just do things, like I don't have to like have like a set certain value system kind of pushes itself towards one of the different animals within that personality pack. So it's kind of cool because if you were talking to another shaman, let's say a panda, they wouldn't totally disagree with you. They'd be like, "Oh yeah, I totally understand that as well." But they would go about it in a very different way. Pandas tend to be like
Mm.
great students. They're very studious, but they like institutions. They just love
Okay.
to feel this kind of structure, which is
Hmm.
tough because the values within that structure don't always match their values. So that's a really tough situation because like, wait, I want to be around people because I want to help people, but the rules that I'm being told I have to follow are not in sync with what I feel like I should be doing. So what do I do? You know, and so anyway, sorry, that would be a panda,
That's
but you sound
hmm
more like a humpback whale. That's
Oh,
what it sounds like. Because humpback whales
okay.
float. You know, they float and they let the ocean take them where they go. You know, they just kind of, I want to say go with the flow because there's other animal types or personality types that's probably a better descriptor for. But I
hmm
would say humpback whales go with where their visions take them, I guess. Like they just kind of like, where am I going to learn more about myself? Oh, okay, here. I'm going to take a meditation because in meditating I can, and then, oh, this looks interesting too. Let me follow this and so forth.
So me. It's so true. It is what I do. And I often say that I go with the flow or more of where I'm meant to be. And as things kind of come into life, I'm always trying new things and different things. So I do like learning. A friend of mine and I were just joking around about um some files I had on my computer, and I'm like, oh, this is all the courses I've bought, and it's like super long. And she's like, have you taken all those? And I'm like, yeah, most of them. I haven't fully completed all of them, but I'm like, I've learned from all of them. And then there was something that came up. I'm like, oh, there's this. And I'm like, well, yeah, I don't think I need another course right now. I just need to focus on what I'm doing. But part of me, yeah, there's so many things that I want to learn about, so many things that I want to do, but then I have to be realistic and think there's only so many hours in a day. And it is great to learn. Then I also have to implement, because what's the point of learning if I'm not implementing and doing those things that I'm learning about? So I that's where I kind of struggle, is the focus and how many things I can actually do at one time.
That's so funny because my animal type is a baboon, which is also a shaman type. It's a little more of a louder one, and it's a little bit more like not, I won't say in your face, but a bit more aggressive sometimes. But on those
Mhm.
two things, humpback whales and baboons are very similar in their flaws. Like growing up, I knew that was a big flaw of mine. Is like I get super excited about something, and then I would not finish it or follow through. And then you get excited about like 15 different projects. And
Mhm.
it's kind of cool, right? Because then at least you know. So then you, like you were saying, like you can say, okay, I know this is something that I have to work on. I'm not going to change myself, but I am going to
Mhm.
try to grow and get better at kind of completing some of the things. I don't have to complete all of them, but let me just complete some of them. Like
Right.
I'm conscious of that too. I mean, I'm still conscious of that, and yet I still have a sausage maker that's in my house right now that I bought to go with my meat grinder that I'm like, oh, this is so cool. I'm going to make sausage and smoke it and do all those things. And I've had it for a year and a half. It's been sitting there. I haven't touched it. So,
Right. Yeah, I mean it's tough because there are so many great things and so many great ideas and so many like really great things to do and interesting things to learn. But even sometimes, even if I don't finish all of it, um, I'm happy that I've at least learned some of the things. And I know that technically I could go back, but I have generally
Mhm.
yet to really do that. But I find though too, if something takes too long, like
Mhm.
I like to have things that do get finished sometimes fairly quickly. Unless I'm really interested, I can keep that interest a bit longer. But I guess it kind of brings back to, as I said earlier, with my friend who has the job and kind of does basically the same thing. Like she's a legal assistant. And so she does a lot of the same things daily. Like I couldn't do that. I would get so bored with that because I like to learn new things. I like to do things. And then I want to be kind of done with that and learn something and do something new. I can go back to work on it, but I also like to have things that are done so I can focus on something new.
And that's why it's good to have friends, right, with different personality types because
Oh yeah.
you can always just pair up with someone who would be like a beaver personality type is really good at finishing what they start. Now they will not start that many things because of course they're like, no, I'm not going to make a commitment unless I complete it. So you befriend
Mhm.
them and go, hey, like you want to take this class on this, and they will like, let's take this yoga class, and they will make sure you show up. They'll be like, no, we're going. Come on, we're gonna go right now, and we have to go. We have to keep going. And so like it's
Mhm.
great because then you can help them like learn how to like be open with the things they do and try make more commitments and maybe try different things, and then they can help you like learn how to complete at least most of the things that you try.
Right, right. And that's a great way, as you said, like for friendships and to also know for romantic relationships and partnerships, if people are going to get married, to know what kind of personality type that person is, because then how are you going to work together in that relationship based on your personality type? Pardon the interruption. If you're enjoying this episode and you're someone who values performance, clarity, and personal growth, then you're going to love my Mind Matters weekly newsletter. Every week, I send out a quick, powerful piece designed to help high achievers like you master your mindset, upgrade your habits, and lead with more clarity and fulfillment. It's not fluff, it's science backed, actionable, and easy to digest. It as your weekly reset button to realign with the leader you're becoming. So if you want to go deeper than what we've covered here on the show, then head over to www.sallypederson.com. That's me, and subscribe. Your next breakthrough just might be one email away. Now back to the show.
Yeah, like I get asked all the time, like, oh, what is my soulmate? And I'm like, well, it seems like you really want to ask me because you're already with someone. So are you asking me to give you a justification why you shouldn't be with them or why you should not like be with each other? And I always just say, like, we all are going to get along a certain way, and we're not going to get along a certain way with everybody. We're never going to get, you're not going to, it's not being 100% perfect, right? But our
Right.
personality types will dictate like that pressure point, right? Like it's going to be consistent based on this personality type and this personality type. And like if you
Right.
have like the flexible, spontaneous, let's say butterfly who just goes with the flow, I think of like Rachel from Friends. And then you
Okay.
have like the stag personality type, which is very rigid and structured and confident and very certain about things. Then that's actually theoretically that's a good match because the butterfly's problem is that they never like commit to anything, and the stag will make sure that they do that. And the butterfly is so
Mhm.
easygoing that it kind of almost melts the stag's like hard heart. But even then, they're gonna like clash because
Right.
sometimes like the butterfly is gonna want pretty things, and the stag's gonna go, no, I just want the practical things that make sense. So.
Right. Right. That, yeah, there always is going to be. And I think too, I mean, I wouldn't want to be friends with or in a relationship with somebody who agrees with everything.
Mhm.
Because I think I don't know, there needs to be some challenge. There needs to be different. Like to me, I don't like to be around what we name as like yes people. Oh,
Mhm.
yes, yes, yes. Because then like don't you have an opinion of your own? Right. If you're always agreeing with me and you always like everything I like, then to me that just doesn't seem right because that's just not how people are. And we need to have a bit of conflict, of a difference of opinion, because then that way, then we're just more open to knowledge, right? Because
Right.
opinions and beliefs, like I've grown to be of the opinion that my beliefs and opinions, they are not right, they are not wrong, they are only mine from the life experiences that I've had. And therefore, if I meet somebody who has complete opposite belief and opinion about something, I enjoy having conversations with them because I want to understand why they think that way, why they believe it, what kind of has happened in life or the things that they've done to believe that. And it's not to change an opinion or anything like that, but it's just to have an understanding. So then if I meet somebody else who feels a certain way, and knowing it's like, oh, well, if I can understand why you feel that way and why you think that, because if I had that experience, I would probably think the same thing. However, because mine is what it is, I'm keeping my belief because it was my experience, but it's just an openness of understanding. And those are, to me, really interesting and good conversations to have.
Yeah, I love that you said that because oftentimes the one rule, or I guess I could call it a rule, but in that situation that I always say with personality types is if you're in a relationship that's where you're comfortable, it's probably not great. Like
Mhm.
you want tension, you want some kind of tension or discomfort because that discomfort probably means that the person doesn't totally agree with everything you say, is not totally just capitulating. And then thus because of that, you're arguing a little bit. You don't argue
Mhm.
a lot, but you're arguing a little bit. And in those arguments, that's how we grow, right? Like I think we don't
Right.
change, but we can go, okay, like you see it in this way. And it's great that I can understand that. I don't necessarily see it in that way, but that doesn't, like you said, that doesn't mean I'm right. It just means that maybe thinking that way is right for me in how I am now. But it's good to know what other
Mhm.
people are thinking because we can always change, in the sense that we can change how we act. I shouldn't say we can change our personality, but we can always change how we act in any given moment. And I do think certain personality types are better in certain moments, right? So it's all
Hmm.
contextual.
Hmm.
Like, like I know my type probably isn't the best at logistics or the best when doing taxes. So, I either have to like let someone else do it, or I have to suck it up and just like act like another type that's a little bit more organized and loves a spreadsheet and loves putting things in Excel so that I can actually get that stuff done, and get rid of it and do the things that I really want to do.
Right. And we need all of those different personality types. Like that's
Mhm.
what makes the world go round. That what makes everything different and work and just figure things out and try new things. Like if we look at the development of technology, how many different conversations have had to take place about what people think will work, won't work, what they tried, then again, is working, isn't working. And we need that. And then we need, like I say to my friends, like, she's a legal assistant with real estate law. Like, we need that. I need somebody like her. If I'm buying a house or property or something like that, I want someone like her who's used to doing this, who goes through line by line. She knows what to look for. She knows how to do everything because I don't know. And honestly, I don't want to know. Okay.
Yeah, that's
I I'm not interested and I don't want to know. I'm glad that she does that. And that's just one example, of course, like a mechanic. I don't
right.
want to know how to fix a car. If it's not working, I just want to be like, it's not working. Please fix it. Like, I don't want to know.
Yeah, everyone has a role in society, and that's kind of how I came up with the four personality packs names, right? They're
Hmm.
gatherers, hunters, shamans, and smiths. And just like archetypally in medieval villages, you had those people in those roles. And you just thinking about it, what do we need most of? Well, we probably need more gatherers, right? Because it takes a lot of people to gather the harvest, protect the village. And then maybe the second most we need is hunters, because we need a lot of people going out there and like bringing in the hunt or bringing in food.
Hmm.
Now, hunting is dangerous. So a lot of hunters die. And just like now, hunters often do take risky jobs where maybe they might die, or at least they're taking some kind of risk. So
Right.
you don't really need too many shamans and smiths. So that's why there's not that many shamans and smiths out there. They only make up about combined, they make up about 15% of the population, which is not a lot. Because like I said, you only need one person making the tools, which is what a smith does. They make the
Right.
technology, but you do need a lot of hunters to use it, and to execute and to operate. And then, of course, you only need one person to tell everyone when it's going to rain and when they should gather the harvest, but you need like probably half the village to bring in the crops. So
Right. So is it possible to change our personality type?
I don't think so. I think when people actually genuinely have changed, it probably means that they just didn't know who they were in the beginning. Like, which is totally understandable. If you're like a minority, for lack of a better word, a minority personality type, and your
Hmm.
parents are of one of the majority personality types, it's very, very common for that child to like believe that they're just like their parents. Because oftentimes
Right.
parents are also going to push that on you. They're like, oh, a chip off the old block and stuff, which is not statistically true, but they do that. And so that kid might grow up till they'll be 25 and they'll be like, oh my God, like I do not really know who I am. And so thus it might seem like they've changed, but they've really just discovered more about themselves. So, which is a good thing.
And yeah, and I mean that makes sense because I like to say generally as we're born, we're kind of born as a blank slate in to a
Mhm.
degree, but everything that we learn and things that we start to believe, it's because of what our parents teach us, our school teaches us, grandparents, community, those types of things, and it gets back to the should
Mhm.
situations as we grow up. And then you're right, as we become adults and get older, at some point we realize, do I really believe this? Do I really like this? Am I really happy? Do I really enjoy whatever it is that we're doing? And then we're finding our true self, not necessarily changing our true core self.
Right. And the words of my dad, and I am quoting here, when I was younger, I used to be like when I was 12 or 13, I used to want to sag my jeans and I wore clothes like that was like three sizes too big because apparently that was in the early 90s. And he would always call me a bit of a poser. And he told me, and this is quote, at the end of the day, no one gives a shit. So you should just do what you want to do, really, and don't think about what other people want because you're the main character of your life and you're not the main character of their lives. You're like a side character, maybe even just a cameo. So you got to do what you want to do. So
That's really great that he said that because it is true. When we think about it, like we've all met how many people in our lives, and there's a saying, and I might get it a little bit off, but there's like a specific number of people that we meet for a reason, and it could be 1,000, we could or 10,000 people we meet for a reason in our life, and of those 10,000, maybe 1,000 are for a season of our life, and then of that 1,000, there's probably 50, maybe it's probably even too high of that are actually lifetime people in our lives. Like they're around from whenever the time that we meet. And it could be early as kids, it could be teenagers, it could be in our 40s or 50s. But from that time that we meet until either they pass or we pass, that we're friends. And out of the span of how many people we actually meet, to our acquaintances, to friends, to truly that lifetime connection is very true. And so, as he said it, like it's your life, and some maybe a part, maybe you're just a cameo. You're just that short blip in the span of somebody else's life. And we really do need to do what we want to do and what's important for us.
Yeah, and when I used to own my education company, I would teach my teachers this because obviously I didn't want them, as you said, saying to their students, you should do this, you should do this. It's like you got to figure out what the kid needs, and then you can kind of go, okay, like for this is what you should do for you, not because of me. And the tutors that learned it the best were the ones who were already parents. And so they were like, so when I
Mm,
was teaching them the personality types, they're like, oh, no wonder why I love all my kids equally. They always said that. I love all my kids equally, but my son really pisses me off sometimes. And it's like, yeah, because you're just different personalities. So you guys are just seeing things in a different
right.
way. And of course, it's so frustrating for parent because of course they want their kids oftentimes seeing things the way they see it because they should, because they're their
Hmm.
child. And it's that learning of like experience of, oh, you know what? They're not like me at all, and they will never be like me. And you just got to be okay with that, right? At least what's best for the kid is you got to be okay with that.
Right, right. And I think that that's something that we're learning more now, but we didn't really know that because we would always think that they're my child, mine and my spouse's. And so because they come from us and our genes and our personalities, that they should be like us and sort of think like us. And we teach them what we know and think and feel that that's how they should feel and think and do. But there is that genetic factor of their own personality, um, that makes them them. And I found it interesting when I was younger. So I've got a sister and two brothers, and I used to think, like, how are we all related? Because we're so different. And it didn't make sense to me because I'm like, we have the same parents, we grew up in the same house, we had the same experiences. Like I don't understand how we're so different. And then I don't know if it was a podcast I was listening to or a seminar I was at or something, but the speaker was saying, you think you're going to be all the same because you grew up in the same house and you had the same experiences, but you really didn't because your
Mhm.
parents did treat you slightly different, especially like if you were the first born, everything was new, they're just learning. If you're the third or fourth born, we've been through this a few times, like they're way more relaxed. And also when things happen, even if it's they have arguments often, or if a parent passes or a grandparent moves in, like wherever there's things that happen, you're all at different ages. And so when you're at different ages, it also affects you differently, and therefore you're going to be different. And that's when I started to realize, wow, it made sense to me because I couldn't understand how we could live in the same house, grow up the same discipline, same everything, but we were all very different.
Yeah, I mean, you all have different personalities too, right? So, I mean,
Right.
I would go into households where we'd have like three students. I remember one household where there were three girls, and they're pretty close in age, maybe within 2 years apart from each other,
Mhm.
and they were so, so different. And the things that you might expect, like I was helping with the oldest child, I was teaching her, and you might think the oldest sister, because they're all sisters, right, would be like in charge, responsible, domineering. She would be the leader, and she was the most passive of the three. It was the youngest that was the bossy one who was like, no, we need to do this, this, this. And I could even see her doing this, like literally with her hands as she would talk to him. This is like a 12-year-old. and bossing around
Mm-hmm.
her 15-year-old sister, who was just more like la-di-da, just like I just want to get along and have fun with my life. And it was just really
Mm-hmm.
interesting to see those dynamics, and they have the same parents, the same household. And that's great, right? Like that's the best part about it, is that we all have different things that we can provide to the family, and it's just accepting that we don't always have to be the same, and we can act differently. And just as long as we're true to ourselves, then
Mm.
most things are going to turn out well.
Right, right. And so you've written a book. So why don't you tell us about the book?
So it's called The Power of Personality. And
Hmm.
really, it's based on my personality typing methodology. Like you can go on my website and take a test, and I'm always gonna, tell people about that test. It's a CTA, I guess they call it. And
Hmm.
it's fast, it's fun. But really, online tests are online tests, right? They're cookie cutter. You know, they're like 70 questions or whatever that are all the same. I don't really think that's super accurate.
Mm.
So when I wrote the book, I wanted the book to teach people to be a test. So basically, it goes
Okay.
through the personality typing methodology, like figuring out how do you figure out whether this person is a gatherer or a hunter or a shaman or a smith. Okay, now that I know that they're a shaman, which shaman are they? What are the different shaman types? Oh, they prioritize this. These two prioritize this. These two prioritize this. And it basically shows you I guess, the structure, or I guess the algorithm in a fancy way, um,
Hmm.
of how to figure out what someone's personality type is. That being said, it's written in a fun way. It's not like, it's not really wonky. Like there's a lot of fun stories and anecdotes. I use a lot of pop culture allusions because I think that's one of those things where people are like, oh, I get it. I'm like Iron Man. It's like, okay, great. Yeah, you're like Tony Stark. Like I think people
Hmm.
are like start understanding the archetypes that they've seen in fiction. And then once you do that, then you can start understanding the archetypes of the people that you've met in your life. Like you had mentioned, we meet whatever thousands of people in our lives. Like we all have that in-person experience, right? But we might not necessarily know how to use that information to gain insight. And so hopefully my book teaches people to do that.
Perfect. And Eric, if people wanted to get your book or they wanted to get in touch with you or follow you along with social media, where are some of the best places for them to connect with you?
So the book is available, I think they like to say, anywhere you buy books. So if you want to give Jeff Bezos your money, you can find it on Amazon. It's The Power of Personality. But also you can go to your local bookstore and they can order it for you, or go to Barnes and Noble and order it from there. And you can find me on Instagram at The Power of Personality. I'm not a big social media guy, but find me
Okay.
anyway. It's The Power of Personality, the name of my book. And then my website, where you can actually take the test, is the utopiaproject.com. And that's YOU, like YouTube, utopiaproject.com. You can take the test there, and you can find me there. My normal website, or my main website, sorry, I got like a lot of links here, is projectutopia.com. And that goes to my life coaching and all that kind of stuff.
Perfect. Well, I will make sure that we have all the links in the show notes to make it easy for people to connect with you and find you. And I just want to say thank you very much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, I had a lot of fun. It was great talking to you.